This is LBC. Message Richard Spurr on WhatsApp now. 0345 60 60 973.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more between now and 3 o'clock about M&S and their new range of, well, not about M&S at all, actually, but about fat jabs and the fact that so many people have great success. But does it all come back on when you finish taking them? After the news at 3, I've got all sorts of things to bring you about the year gone by, the year to come. Particularly, we're going to be talking about the great books that you should read in the new year and the books that you've always loved. So tons to come between 3 and 4 here at LBC with me, Richard Spurr. First, though, Sir Keir Starmer has vowed to defeat decline and division by staying the course, delivering the promise with his trademark level of charisma. In his New Year message, the Prime Minister conceded that life remains harder than it should be for many, a heartfelt admission delivered in a tone so calm it could double as a relaxation exercise.
Things have been tough in Britain for a while. For many, life is still harder than it should be. You long for a bit more money in your pockets, a meal out, a holiday, the chance to make a special family moment extra special. In 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service. But even more people will feel once again a sense of hope, a belief that things can and will get better. Feel that the promise of renewal can become a reality. And my government will make it that reality. More police on the streets by March, energy bills down, and the number of new health hubs up in April. More funding for local communities. And with that change, decline will be reversed. That opportunity for you and pride in your community can be restored. I share the frustration about the pace of change. The challenges we face were decades in the making, and renewal is not an overnight job. But putting our country back on a stable footing will become our strength. Strength that means we can support you with the cost of living. Rail fares, prescription charges, fuel duty, all frozen. £150 cut from your energy bills. A boost once again to the national minimum wage. A major cut to the cost of childcare. We are getting Britain back on track. By staying the course, we will defeat the decline and division offered by others. For all the times that have been tough, I hope the festive period has brought good moments, precious time with your family, a chance to celebrate what's most important to you. I wish you more of those moments next year, when things start to feel easier, when politics shows it can help again, when Britain turns the corner, with our future now in our control. The real Britain will shine through more strongly. Happy New Year.
Oh, poor Sir Keir Starmer. People are very mean about him, aren't they? He can't help the way he sounds. Anyhow, Andrew Eborn joins you now, broadcaster, barrister and futurist. Andrew, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too, Richard. It's always a delight to join you. And what another thrill. We love the avalanche of alliteration, defeat the decline and division.
Well, of course, as all journalists and broadcasters know, if in doubt, yes, alliterate.
You have to do it, that avalanche,
if you're
absolutely.
A politician, you repeat things 3 times. Incidentally, before we start talking about that, what is a futurist?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So what I do, I work with companies basically predicting the future. We look at how technology and the advances in things like AI can present all sorts of tremendous opportunities. And I'm determined to put the AI into Britain. And we talk about the biggest threats and the opportunities. See what I did there?
I do.
And certainly, Sir Keir Starmer's put the robotics into Britain, hasn't he? It's the worst possible delivery. I'm down here with some wonderful friends. Miel de Botton, who's a wonderful singer-songwriter, Swiss singer-songwriter, and some wonderful friends. And I played them several times, Sir Keir Starmer's thing. And they said the wonderful thing about it is not inspirational. We live in the greatest country in the world. We have the creative industry is about 126 billion to the UK economy. We punch way above our weight with 2.4 million people. What was missing was the inspiration, people listening around the world to say, hang about, Britain is a great place to invest in. Where is the idea about growth? Where's the idea to sort of promote that AI and that robotics other than the delivery that we punch way above our weight on?
Well, absolutely right. Look, I mean, I'm not going to get overly political. We are, however, still in the holiday period, but constant barracking at Keir Starmer, not necessarily because of the message he gives, but because of the way he gives it. People talk about greyness, a lack of charisma, a roboticness, the fact that he's just a barrack room lawyer. But John Major, do you remember John Major on Spitting Image?
How can you forget?
Was portrayed as completely grey. The running gag was every shot he was with Norma saying, nice peas again today, dear, or whatever like that. It was, and yet he was apparently the Queen's favourite Prime Minister, second only to Winston Churchill, and is one of the most, I think, the most decorated and honoured Prime Minister living.
You've got to put that in perspective. I think putting that in perspective, though, Richard, you must remember that her favourite child was apparently Andrew. So we need to look at this as a principle. John Major was portrayed on Spitting Image as that grey puppet and so on and so forth. But you miss the charisma, whatever your political position might be, of somebody like Margaret Thatcher or Winston Churchill, who could deliver an inspirational speech. Exactly. Not for turning and all those sort of things. Anything to give you an excuse to do this.
I'm
I'll tell you what the reality
this.
is. I'll tell you what the reality is that trust, I always say, comes in on foot and leaves on horseback. And trust in politicians, trust in some parts of the media is at an all-time low. The way you restore that trust is by delivering. So you look at things like, you might remember the pledges that they made in the manifesto, saying we're not going to increase taxes on the ordinary working person. Well, what's the ordinary working person? We all work. All of a sudden you have the budget and everybody's having to pay more. The rates have gone up on things like dividends and interest. That's gone up by a percentage as well. People are having to pay more. And when you're talking about change, the only change that people care about is the change in their pocket. And that's what you need to look at.
Well, quite. And, for the sake of balance, we have to reflect perhaps the message of the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch, who, for my money, I'm afraid, hasn't really yet made her mark. That's my own view. But she says she's seen no growth, higher taxes, record unemployment. Is 2026 going to be a year in which she somehow gets to grips with how to pull those voters back from reform and to pull voters away from Labour as well?
Well, I think the reality is this, the turquoise tidal wave, as I call it, is if you look at the latest polls, I mean, Reform apparently is close to 30% on the polls. I think the latest one is about 26. Conservatives on about 19. Labour's trailing just behind them. So it is a bit of a mess. But rather than a negative thing, I think people should be looking at the positive stuff. Why are you voting for various parties? You've got people like Richard, Rupert Lowe, and you've got Ben Habib nibbling at their heels as well. Basically people are dissatisfied with what's happening politically. So they're all looking for the next great hope. And what's happened in the past is people have voted in a negative vote, is what I would say. They sort of turn around and say, well, we don't like the current one, so we're going to vote for somebody else, as opposed to something positive. So we need very clear policies. You need clear policies to say, OK, we get it. Times are tough. We need to turn around and say, if you're going to introduce all these things, people are not stupid. How much does it cost? Where's the money going to come from? And you work on that sort of basis. But also, the electorate are not stupid. So you need to turn around and be honest and straightforward with them and deal with those sort of areas. But things like AI, artificial intelligence, and I talk about robotics and so on and so forth, there are tremendous seismic changes that are being made in medicine. Diseases are being cured, which people never thought about beforehand. And if we start embracing those more and more, there'll be tremendous efficiencies introduced accordingly.
Andrew, how is Sir Keir Starmer going to ensure that he is still in number 10 this time next year?
Well, he should employ some people to help him deliver. You say he can't help him deliver. Well, he can. You might remember Margaret Thatcher. Very famously, she went to speech therapy beforehand. Her voice suddenly got a lot deeper and she was more deliberate in the way that she spoke. Look at the very early clips of her. She's a very different presenter. So you can do that. The reality is it's not just about the messenger, but it's about the message. And we need a clearer sort of message as to what they're delivering. They need to own up and turn around and say, look, OK, we got it wrong in our manifesto. manifesto when we promised we're not going to increase taxes. The reality is the circumstances have changed. We do need to now put up taxes, and rather than all these weasel words, as I call them, it would be much easier to turn around and say, look, we have to put 2p on income tax because that's the way we're going to do it, rather than nibbling away at the sort of edges. But that's what's going to happen. Somebody who's a straightforward politician who can turn around and embrace the real issues that people care about, that's the way forward.
And just finally, there is this issue of image, and it's so important these days.
Yeah.
People felt that, Boris Johnson, for example, obviously bumbling and I'm in the most frightful gaffe, but people like the charisma and despite all the dreadful mistakes that he and his colleagues made, to an extent, people feel that Trump has got energy and charisma, despite the fact that he's the most ghastly, narcissistic sociopath that has ever been allowed to rule a country. Is Starmer in need of a massive personal image makeover, or is it just too late?
Oh, no, I think, well, firstly, yes, absolutely. For his own personal growth, I would recommend that. And there are people who do that. I work with people to help with their media training, to help with their image. And it's more about the brand than the band, we say in the music industry, because you want that sort of longevity. So the reality is absolutely he should. Is it too late? Well, there's so many people in the Labour Party nibbling at his heels. And I think we're going to see more of that in the general, in the next sort of few weeks and months, if you like. But the reality is that what you need is a strong, charismatic person. You're right about Trump, and people have very strong views about it, but he's a person. He commands more column inches than virtually any leader around the world. You look at people like Milei and so on and so forth in Argentina, with a glorious hair. If you want to get a haircut, he's a glorious leader on that basis because people know who he is. People like personalities, and personalities are dominating politics.
And you are certainly one, Andrew. I wish you a very happy new year. Let us speak again.
Thank you.
Let us speak again.
I look forward. Take care.
Later in the year. Thank you so much to Andrew Eborn there, a broadcaster, barrister and futurist. I'm Richard Spurr. All right. After the news, we're going to be reflecting some of the heroes and villains, some of the highlights and lowlights of 2025 as we come hurtling in to 2026. Also, in the FT, and I don't normally flick through those pink pages of the FT. They've got the books that you've got to read in 2026 if you want to nourish your mind and entertain yourself. We'll be talking a little bit more about your favourite books, the greatest books of all time.
On your radio, on the LBC app, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 3 o'clock. The Mayor of London's hailed the capital's New Year celebrations as the greatest in the world after 100,000 people lined the banks of the Thames to welcome in 2026. The spectacular display celebrated some of the highlights of the past year, among them England's Women's Rugby World Cup triumph and the Lionesses retaining the Euros. After being called off last year because of the weather, Hogmanay festivities went ahead in Edinburgh, much to the delight of those watching.
The best New Year's ever. You guys, the Scots do it right.
The fireworks and just seeing the whole place, it's been amazing.
The fireworks have been amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Emily's just finished a semester studying here at Edinburgh Uni, so we thought we'd come and meet her and see the fireworks for New Year's, and it was great.
Sir Keir Starmer has used his New Year message to promise to defeat decline and division. He's acknowledged life is still harder than it should be, but says people will soon feel positive change. Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch attacked recent tax rises, but said she's not giving up on our country.